Well, welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new here, my name is Roger and I am designing and building a mid-engine supercar from scratch. This is the current state of the car. In last week's video we finished the mold and made this part here around the passenger's door glass area, and we had started the mold for the driver's side door glass area also, but didn't quite get it finished. And I over the weekend wrapped up that mold. I finished it and made a part. This is the part. I've taken it out of the mold obviously and cleaned it up somewhat, and I have taped around the edge of it as a cut line, and I need to trim this part out and see how it fits on the car, but I imagine it'll fit just like the other side did, but we'll trim that out shortly. I had also started this mold here in last week's video, and I have finished gluing it together. I have brushed a coat of epoxy and Q cells on it and let that dry, and then I've come back and skim coated some Bondo in the roughest spots, and then some of the red filler putty in the spots that weren't quite as rough, in the lighter spots, just little tiny blemishes. And I've started sanding on that, so we are well into working on this mold. And also I made this by hand. I didn't CNC this, it's just cut and glued together pieces. These will be the rocker panel trim pieces. They're just C-shaped pieces. It'll slide over the aluminum tubing and bolt in place. I've also brushed epoxy and Q cells on this, and you can see the putty and the joints. And I need to sand all of this. This mold will be much easier to finish than this one, so I'm going to make these parts first. I need to get this sanded and a good heavy coat of primer sprayed on this so I can sand it and get it ready and hopefully finish this mold so we can make these two pieces this weekend, and then probably this part here, the driver's quarter panel, the following weekend. So this will keep me busy for the next 2 weeks. And I've also been working on the file on the computer for let's go to the other side. That fills in here, which is creates the door jamb area and leaves this opening here for the vent in the door. I have that file almost finished on the computer. It needs just a few more hours work, and once it's finished I can make both of those two parts, and that will be all of the body parts that we are making for now. And we're going to go ahead, and once we have all those parts completed, start mounting all of these body parts solid on the car, and we'll see how that goes. But anyway, that brings you up to speed on what I've been working on for the last couple of days. Had a pretty productive weekend, and let me get busy finishing up this mold and getting it ready and spray it, and then I'll try to go ahead and take my Dremel tool and trim out around the perimeter of this and see if it fits like it should. So I trimmed out this side panel here and placed it on the car. I've been moving things around and taping them into place. Drop the windshield in just to kind of see how things align. I have it as close as I can get it for now. The back of the roof assembly is pretty close left to right, and maybe front to back. I don't even know that for sure, but the front is torqued a little bit to the passenger side. It's on there crooked, so it's making the hatch not align correctly. But I wanted you to see what this looked like. Of course I need to, I pointed out on the other side, I need to raise these rails here where the windshield is going to glue in at. It is sunk too low, and it should, you can see the roof aligns here pretty close. This should touch the same at the bottom, but it's low. I'll have to cut that and remove it, or glue it in place a little bit higher, reposition it. But you can see what this looks like. It's not perfect. This is a little low. It's not won't raise up quite high enough because these two channels that the windshield glues to are bumping each other. But you can see how this sets. I've slid the hatch up to where it's close. It's not perfect, but gives you an idea what all this is going to look like and align. And this side panel has a few flaws. It's got a little chip missing here and a large chip missing here where the gel coat came off, but I'll brush a coat of epoxy and Q cells in on this, and that should sand and blend right in and look nice. But gives you an idea what this looks like. The other mold I was working on for the rocker panel moldings, I finished that mold and I made those parts this morning. It is in the oven curing now, and that mold makes both the passengers and the driver's side rocker panel moldings. So those two parts should come out of the oven tonight or early in the morning, and hopefully they'll turn out nice. And I finished the file for, well, let's go over to the other side. So I finished the computer file for the part that goes here, and I glued a foam block together, and it is cutting on the CNC now, and that'll make the part that glues in here and finishes this body up to the door jamb area, and it'll intersect these rocker panel trim pieces, and all this area will be complete. So and it is for the mold I'm cutting now is for the driver's side, not the passenger side here, but they're just mirror images of each other. So once one is finished, the other one is easy to do. The file itself is finished. So once I have all of those parts made, we'll have everything from the front of the door here rearward finished, and we can start assembling and mounting all these body panels, which I'm excited to start on. See how all of this aligns. But you can get some idea, other than this missing quarter panel, which we'll talk about here in a second. You can get some idea what this is going to look like. Hopefully this all aligns and looks nice. Anywhere that doesn't quite align, I'll just have to do some body work and work it in, I guess. This gives you an idea, a little bit of what this looks like. And for this rocker panel mold, I've started sanding and bondoing and puttying. I had it really close. The one disadvantage of working with the foam is when you put a coat of epoxy and Q cells on it and start sanding, if you miss a spot or sand through a spot, or if there's just a hairline crack in a spot, if you come back and put this red body putty on top of it, the fumes from it dissolves the foam. So you may think you're finished, which is what I had here. I thought I had put the last coat of that putty on and it was just a matter of sanding and it would be done. I came back down the next morning and there was a big crater where it had melted and dissolved the foam. And you just, if you don't see those areas, you don't know they're there. And if you miss something, you just create a mess. Now luckily the Bondo doesn't dissolve it, and the primer doesn't seem to dissolve it, but that red putty does. It just eats it up. So I came down here and I had a huge crater. I mean, it was big. It was an inch wide and probably a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch deep. So I've had to fill this back in with Bondo, and this is ready to be sanded down. Now all this over here is really smooth. There's one little low spot here I'll have to fix, and that needs to be finished sanding. It's close. But all this is getting close to being ready for the first coat of high build primer. I just need to sand on this for maybe an hour or two. Go over it and make sure I haven't missed any spots, but it's getting close. If all goes well and I can get this finished sanded either today or tomorrow and get the first coat of high build primer on it, that would be great. I'd like to make this part next weekend, but that is a lot of work between now and being able to do that, and I'm not quite sure I can work it all in 1 week. It is Saturday afternoon, but let me get busy sanding on this and see how far I can get on it, and should be able to get the first coat of primer on it sometime this weekend, and we'll just have to see how it turns out, how much work is left, and if I can finish it before next weekend. If not, it'll be 2 weeks before we can make this part. But let me get busy and let's see how it works out. So here's a little update for you. I managed to get the first coat of primer on this and block sanded it all down, puttied and bondoed the worst spots. I have to bondo the spots where I sand through because they create divots in the foam. But managed to finish that, and this is the second coat of primer. I just shot it on there. It's pretty heavy, so it'll need to dry all night, and tomorrow I can start block sanding this and then wet sanding it and getting it ready to make a part on. So the good thing is there's a chance I'll have this ready to make a part next weekend, which would be incredible. If that happens, we'll just have to see how long it takes me to finish this mold. It's in pretty good shape. There's a couple of spots it'll take a little extra work to block sand down and get correct, but that's normal. I also brought down a sheet of foam. I need to cut this and glue it together in a block and get ready to CNC a part. I finished the mold for the rocker panel pieces that go here on the car, the 2 rocker panel covers. I made that part yesterday. It is in the oven. It just finished curing, so I need to bring it down and trim these out and see if I have some successful parts for these 2 pieces. And I also have a part cutting on the CNC, the first piece of the mold for the part that goes here in front of the quarter panel and makes the door jamb. The first part of that is on the CNC and it is almost finished. And this sheet of foam will be for the second piece of that mold. It is a 2-piece mold, so I need to get this cut into pieces and glued together overnight so it'll be ready tomorrow, so I can load it up on the CNC and cut that part tomorrow. So we'll have hopefully that mold right behind this one, and it may take a week or 2 to finish, but I'll do both of these at one time, the left and the right side, driver and passenger. I won't make both parts in one weekend, but I'd like to get both molds cut and glued together and ready to start working. They're not very big. They're about half the size of this mold, if that large, so they won't take a lot of work to finish, hopefully. Depends on how hard it is to reach all the areas, but I think it's a pretty simple, not a complex looking part, so that makes it easier to reach and sand. It is possible we may make 4 different body parts in this one video: quarter panel, 2 rocker panel moldings, and then this part. We made it first, so if that happens, that'll be a first, but we'll see how everything goes. Still a long way to go to finish this, but it's looking good. Anyways, that is a good update for you guys, and I'll check back with you again shortly. All right, here's an update for you. I have this part almost finished, or this mold. I have the final coat of putty on it. I'll come back and sand this once it's dry, and I'll be ready to start waxing this mold. It's really close. Pretty happy with the way it turned out. I'm sure it won't be perfect, as none of my molds are, but it should be close enough to make a decent part, as long as there's no vacuum leaks when we build the part. It's Wednesday, so I have couple days to get this wrapped up and finished before I make the part Saturday morning, so I don't see any issues with that. Should have plenty of time. Just a quick final sanding and 6 coats of wax, and we will be ready to go. Also, here are the 2 parts for the next mold we're making. They're not glued together, they're just sitting on top of each other. I need to get these glued, but I haven't had time yet. These will be for the side of the car between the quarter panel and the door, and actually includes part of the door jamb. This is the one for the driver's side, and this block I have glued up here, or it's gluing now, currently drying. I just laminated it. It'll be ready tomorrow to start cutting the other side, the mirror image of this, which is the passenger side. Also, a couple of other things. I trimmed these rocker panel molding trim pieces out a little bit. I haven't final trimmed them to length and size and shape yet, but this is how they set on there. I obviously need to trim this end to that door post the same angle, and then trim it around it a little bit and get it to fit closely, and then trim this end to where I'm going to cut it. I'm not quite sure where that's going to be yet, so I'm probably going to leave this as long as it is initially, and then we'll come back and trim it off once the other part that mates up with that is finished. And this is the passenger side one here, just sitting here. I haven't touched it at all other than trim it to rough size. Also, I was experimenting with this. I had a bad spot here on this part. I still haven't sanded here, but I did sand here. I wanted to test this theory I had and make sure this was going to work. I mixed a mixture of epoxy and Q cells, the same thing that we're coating our molds with. And my theory is, since this is epoxy and gel coat, when I sand this down, this epoxy and Q cells should stick to that better than any type of a body filler. So I put this on, brushed it on, I made it real thick, and I brushed it on, let it dry, and I sanded this one spot down just to see how it attached or bonded and how easy it sanded and blended in. And I believe that's going to work. That was pretty easy to do. I need to sand this one down. There's still a divot here. I'll come back, and once I sand it down, I'll come back and brush a second coat on it, and even a third one if I need to. But that looks like a good way to build up these bad spots on these parts before I do the high build primer and get them ready. Here's another bad spot. This gel coat just didn't stick everywhere. And what I'll do is take and pull that off. You can see where it's not stuck. I'll pull that off everywhere that it's not stuck back to the good gel coat, and then I'll fill in those void areas. Here's one, here's one. And if I can get that out, that may be one. It may be attached well enough there. I don't need to remove it. And then there's a little tiny divots along that I'll do the same thing to and fill in and make this part nice. That'll take a little while, but it'll be well worth it in the end, I believe. But that's what I've been up to. So let me get busy finishing up this mold and get this part into CNC tomorrow to start cutting. And this is the first part of a two-part mold, same as this. So I'm probably 2 or 3 days away from having this mold components finished also. Then I'll be ready to start gluing all these pieces together, and we can work on these and start finishing them as soon as this part is completed and in the oven baking. So everything's coming along nicely. Just wanted to give you this update, and I'll check back with you guys shortly. This mold, I realized I made a mistake on. I missed something where the rubber on the door seal, and let me get my bearings here. The rubber touches this piece, the rubber on the door, and seals off against the surface. But here in this corner, there needed to be an area for the rubber on the door glass to sit, and then the rubber from the door itself would touch that door glass rubber and seal off. And I missed that here in my file. I just noticed it last night. So this part, this mold, is not any good. I'm gonna have to recut it. And I have the CNC running this morning, starting to recut this file. And then once it's finished, we'll do the mirrored side of this, the passenger side of the car, and have these two molds back in action. But I'm gonna throw this one away. It's no good, unfortunately. And also I started trimming these pieces here for the rocker panel door seals. This is just rough. I cut the angle here on the back and notched it, and the front is long. I don't know where I need to trim it yet, but it'll definitely be shorter than this. But what I'm going to do to mount this is there'll be some fasteners underneath, which the heads will be exposed, of course. I'm going to put one fastener here. That's why I left this tongue on this. It'll be hidden, so when this body panel comes in, you won't see that fastener. I'll do the same thing on this end. Once I know where this panel comes, it's probably going to be in this general area, so I'll leave a tongue here, so that'll be hidden. And then there'll be a trim piece that sits on top of this, comes in and laps over and covers that and closes all that off. And that trim piece will have some exposed screw heads. I'm hoping this piece will be natural carbon fiber, and it'll probably have the word Phoenix embossed in it, the letters. So when you open the door, you'll see Phoenix and a natural carbon fiber, nice looking part. And that trim piece will cover and finish off this. But that's in the future. We'll see how that goes. I'm hoping I can make a nice part. That should be a simple part to make. It's almost flat, and other than the raised letters on it, it should be extremely simple to machine and make. But we'll see how that turns out. But that was my plan. And then of course the rubber from the door seal will touch this, will come across and transition right onto the piece that goes here and up, and then all the way up to here where it touches the rubber on the door glass area. The rubber for the door glass area comes down and stops here. There's a big area here, and this rubber will touch that one. But no, that's probably hard to visualize right now, but in the future, moving forward, maybe it'll be a little more clear once you start seeing this in person. But that's what I've been working on. Let me get busy CNCing or seeing the mold that we're making to replace this mold, and then I need to cut and glue up 3 more blocks of foam to finish out these molds. So that's what I'm going to do next. Let me get busy doing that. Alright, so I trimmed out this quarter panel. I have it sitting here close to where it goes because everything is misaligned slightly. There's no way to move it in the exact location, but it's approximately there. You can see how it would blend in here with this side panel. There's a gap there, but it would push up and glue together eventually. And the opening here for the air intake. This piece here is the parts that we started machining, laying here in the floor, but I forgot a feature on this, so I'm recutting this. It's on the CNC now. Once that is finished, I'm going to pause it, because before I need these two pieces, I need two mounts that go underneath the roof and attach it to the roll bar. Let's see if we can see up in here. I'm going to glue a piece to the roof just behind this roll bar, and that will bolt the roof to the roll bar with a few fasteners across here. And the same thing in the back. If it's not too dark to see, I'll have a piece that glues to the roof and bolts to that roll bar, and that'll hold the roof to the car in the correct position. And I've got to get all that bolted on and squared up, but before I do that, I need to glue these two sides to the roof, and there'll be some trimming and gluing and bolting and all that to get that to align perfect. And I'll have to come in and clean up all of this. And once that assembly is finished, glued together and mounted to the car, then I can start aligning the two quarter panels and the rear of the car and the hatch and all of that, which is going to take a tremendous amount of measuring and adjusting to get all this to align and fit properly. I'm going to have to cut a piece off of this hatch, and I may wind up remaking a piece to fit in here. But the way the spoiler is going to mount on this car, I'm going to need the back few inches here to be stationary and not part of the hatch. So I'll have to shorten the hatch, glue this piece in across here permanently, and then work my spoiler mounts somehow up underneath this deck to the frame. So when the spoiler attaches here, these back few inches, whatever it is, 4 to 6 inches, will be stationary and won't raise, and then the hatch will raise inside of that area. Wasn't quite sure how I was going to do all that, but I've kind of worked through it in my head the last few days, and I guess I need to get a spoiler on order. I've seen a few online. They're in the $200 to $2,500 range, what I'm wanting to use, and I need to get that here and then see how it aligns, how the pedestal mounts align with my hatch. As far as being the correct angle for the spoiler, I may wind up having to make some aluminum spacers here between the spoiler and the deck to get the angle worked out to be exactly correct. But we'll see how that goes once the spoiler arrives. Just got to pick out exactly which one I'm going to order and get it on order. I saw one today that the company I thought I was going to order from, and it says the carbon fiber ones are on back order. So I need to contact them and see how long the wait is on that, and see if I'm going to wait on them or move to a different company. But that's what the car's looking like. We have most everything we need here. In fact, I'm going to start gluing pieces together and trying to get the roof of this car in the correct position and attached so we can start building from there. But made pretty good progress on this video. Made 4 parts. First time I've ever made 4 parts in 3 weeks. May never do that again, but we'll see. 2 of them were in one mold, so that helped. But I'm happy with the progress, and I guess that's going to be about it for this week's video, and I'll see you guys again in a few weeks.